is my delight and honor to be introducing our keynote speaker today, Katherine Ho. Born in 1999 in California, Katherine grew up in Thousand Oaks as a first-generation Chinese American in a Mandarin-speaking household. She is best known for her Mandarin language cover of Coldplay's Yellow, which served as the pivotal emotional cue on the 2018 film Crazy Rich Asians. A former contestant on NBC's The Voice, Katherine has since then lent her vocals to various films, including Endless Sky from the 2021 animated feature Wish Dragon, as well as theme park soundtracks, such as Parental Love for the 2024 Epcot Nighttime Spectacular Luminos, the Symphony for Us. But before we bring her on stage, let's play a short clip from Crazy Rich Asians. For many of us, this was not only the moment that Katherine sang her way into movie history, but also the moment she sang her way into our hearts. This is the final scene of the movie, our last glance at those characters, and I believe the real magic of the scene comes from the beautiful vocals we hear from Katherine as she delivers the ambiance and the final touches of a movie masterpiece.
But wherever you are in the world, that's where I belong.
But
Rachel Chu, will you marry me and make me the happiest man in this world?
I love you too. This is gonna be some flight back to New York.
Well, I was actually thinking about staying one more night.
Wow, literally bringing tears to my eyes. Okay, without further ado, let's please welcome the wonderful and talented Katherine Ho to the stage.
Thank you so much for that lovely intro, Alice, and thank you for having me, Francis.
Oh no, thanks for being here. Okay, so here she is, Katherine Ho. I'm one of her biggest fans here, so the opportunity of having her here on stage is nothing short of spectacular for me. But I want the audience to get to know you a little bit better because there's so much deep story behind not just your voice, but also your own path and your journey, right? So I would love for you to share, if you're up for it, a little bit about where you're born and where you grew up and what that was like for you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Francis. It's truly an honor to be here today sharing the stage with such inspiring women. I have gained so much just from being an audience member here. And yeah, I can definitely share a bit about my upbringing. I have spent most of my life in Southern California. I grew up in a town about an hour north of LA, Thousand Oaks, and did my K through 12 education there. Stayed in Los Angeles for undergrad and grad school. And then, yeah, when I graduated from my master's program, I started a remote job. And my best friend, who's actually in the audience today, she had been based in San Francisco and had a room open up here. So I kind of just moved here on a whim, given that I had that flexibility with remote work. Didn't know how long I was going to stay, but ended up really falling in love with the community and the Bay Area. So I'm actually based in San Francisco now, but go home, go back to LA at least once or twice a month, as most of my like professional music network is based there, as well as my friends and family.
I love that. So you're basically a California native. Like that's so
Yes.
cool. Okay, so as you were growing up, what were initially the paths, the passions that became very interesting and just right there central and core for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I feel like I have a bit of a reputation in my friend and family group for being the career crisis queen because I've literally considered so many different careers and still, even to this day, think a lot about what it is that I want to do. Career is something that means a lot to me. I remember my first dream job was to be a news anchor. I grew up watching KTLA with my mom, and there was an Asian American news anchor at the time that I was obsessed with named Sharon Tay. So I think that was one of my earliest dream careers. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I also did professional acting when I was in elementary, middle school, part of high school. It was through connections that I had made through music that kind of introduced me to acting. Ultimately decided that that particular side of the entertainment world wasn't for me, but continued to still pursue music. So of course, that was always a career path in my life. And then in high school, I started to fall in love with biology. My parents both work in STEM. My mom's a research scientist and my dad is a software engineer. So I always kind of grew up with STEM influence, but I had a really inspiring AP biology teacher in high school, and she taught the subject in the most engaging and interactive way. Made me really appreciate the subject. I ended up majoring in biology in college, and then kind of from there considered various paths within bio healthcare. Experimented a bit and thought I wanted to do pre-med initially, quickly realized that wasn't for me. Also was interested in some clinical research roles and even like user experience design and research. And then ultimately landed on public health, which I can explain more later in our chats about how that all came to be. But yeah, I've considered a lot of different career paths and still continue to consider where I want to take my life.
So I'm hearing public health, biology, healthcare, and of course, professional singing. Okay, yeah, you definitely have a very, very broad spectrum of careers. That's only for someone who is talented as you.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. So, okay, of course, now here's the question that I really want to ask, and I'm sure everyone wants to know. How and when did Crazy Rich Asians come into your life?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I always love telling this story because Crazy Rich Asians really came into my life in a very unexpected and serendipitous way, but it all ties back to my high school experiences. I attended a musical summer camp in high school called Acapella Academy. It's a 10-day music intensive where high school students from all over the world can audition. It was co-founded by some members of Pentatonics, an a cappella group that I had loved watching on YouTube growing up. And so I found out about this camp through them. And the camp was, yes, an a cappella experience, but it was also just a broader sampling of music industry and learning and meeting people for the broader music industry. So it's really a community that I've been so grateful to be a part of. The connections that you make at camp expand way beyond your 10 days there. And then for me, this came back into my life when I had graduated from the camp and just started college. A mentor from that camp had reached out to me and said, "Hey, Katherine, I think I remember you sing in Mandarin. I have a colleague who is vocal contracting for an unnamed Mandarin TV film project. I have no idea what it's for, but would you be interested in submitting a demo?" And I respected and trusted this mentor a lot and just wanted to practice singing Mandarin. So I said yes. The whole audition process was quite a whirlwind. They sent me the Mandarin lyrics and the arrangement and the track and needed this audition like learned, filmed, recorded by the next morning. And I was pre-med at the time and just remember being really swamped with like my chemistry lab work and like all the pre-med stuff, and I was camped out in my dorm's music room. I lived in a dorm that had piano rooms because it was a special interest dorm for people interested in arts and humanities. And I was there like all night and was on the phone with my dad, having a mental breakdown at midnight, being like, this is not coming together. My parents have always been very supportive of my music career, and I just feel so grateful for their support all these years. But my dad was there with me on the phone, like calming me down, also helping me with the Mandarin pronunciation and helping me interpret like the poetry of the Mandarin lyrics, because it is very different than I would say a lot of like American songwriting. But yeah, I fell asleep at the piano, just like camped out there and recorded the audition before rushing off to like my 9 a.m. chemistry lecture. So it was all like a whirlwind. And a few days later, the studio contacted me and said that they liked my demo a lot and they wanted me to record the final cut. And it wasn't until like 30 minutes before the session that they were able to share with me what the project was for. And of course, I freaked out and I was so excited. The actual session was really special. I got to actually bring my dad to the recording session to act as like my dialect coach. And then I also worked with the Warner Brothers music team that night and the director of Crazy Rich Asians, John M. Chu. I also got to see the portion of the movie that was just played. They just wanted to show me more context about where my song was going to be used. But yeah, it was just a really crazy, unexpected experience, and was just so grateful in general to be a part of the soundtrack, but never could have imagined that people would reference or listen to it outside of the movie. So just blessings on blessings, and I'm really grateful for the way it's changed my life.
That is so beautiful and serendipitous as well too.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that your dad was right there with you every step of the way to make sure that this opportunity had every chance to become successful as possible. So now, you talked about being pre-med, and I know you're also involved in healthcare right now. Let me ask you this. With all the success you have right now, do you see music and medicine as two separate parallel parts of your life, or some sort of a convergence in there?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think about it a lot. And for most of my life, I honestly kind of treated music and healthcare as two very separate tracks. I think the day-to-day of what I do as a singer and a content creator is obviously so different from what I do in healthcare now. I work as a product manager at a health tech initiative at a healthcare company. And it wasn't until my recent adult life where I kind of saw that these two parts of my life intersect in an unexpected way. But this all kind of ties back to singing for Crazy Rich Asians. Crazy Rich Asians made history at the time of its release for being the first Hollywood film in over 25 years at the time to feature a majority Asian cast. And it was just a really big cultural and politically significant moment for Asian Americans in media. And so I think getting to be a part of this soundtrack naturally led to a lot of opportunities to collaborate musically with or perform for organizations that do social justice work and uplift culture initiatives within the Asian American community. And one particularly memorable event that I was invited to sing at was for actually a Bay Area nonprofit called Asian Health Services. And this event was really meaningful to me given my background studying healthcare related topics in college at the time. And the event was to raise awareness for the public charge rule and immigration policies that would severely impact and hinder healthcare access for immigrants and forcing them to choose between accessing essential services and maintaining legal status in the country. It was not something that I had really known about before this event. I also sang for an organization that was raising awareness on the homelessness crisis in the Asian American community. And after being a part of that event, I realized I was uncomfortably unaware of how homelessness impacts the Asian American community, and even growing up in LA my whole life, like how it impacts Los Angeles. And so that inspired me to look into some volunteering opportunities with my university to work at an education center that provides career building resources for individuals struggling with homelessness. And so I think back on all this, and it really was through my experiences in music that I was exposed to organizations like Asian Health Services, like Project by Project, that really involved community engagement and social justice work. And given my healthcare background, it also made me think more deeply about healthcare is more than just what happens in a clinic or the care that you receive in a hospital. The physical and mental well-being that we have is also impacted by our social systems, by the policies that dictate what care we can even receive, by our race, our income, our marginalized identities, etc. And because of all of this, I later realized that these are all questions and aspects of healthcare that public health professionals tackle. And so it was really serendipitous when I found out about the field of public health that, oh, like there's a name for this thing that I naturally discovered and became interested in. And so I, from there, decided to pursue my master's education in public health. And I really do credit the reason why I do public health equally to my direct experiences studying like biology and healthcare, but also to my experiences in music and the perspectives that I gained through community engagement.
Okay, I love the fact that you have those two disciplines, but you're also making sure that those two disciplines are progressing in parallel with each other as well too, right? So I'm very curious, what are you doing today now? You did touch on it in healthcare, but what are you doing today now in terms of medicine and healthcare, if there's any type of synergy and convergence of those two?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I would say the day to day of what I do, again, in music and healthcare is quite different. I think, like, in music, I kind of have three different pillars. Like, my favorite is, of course, like live performance and live engagement. There's nothing that can replace that, like, in person energy that you feel with the crowd. So that's like one side of my music life. I also do sing for like brands and commercials, like provide background vocals and lead vocals for like studio projects. And I also kind of maintain a creative brand and presence online through posting short form content on Instagram and TikTok that aims to bridge like Eastern and Western influences and highlight Asian American culture through my music. So that's kind of like the music side of my life. And in the healthcare side, I work at CVS Health, the retail pharmacy, but on the product development business side. And so I work on products and projects and health tech initiatives that help improve the patient and customer experience, as well as make operations in the pharmacy more efficient. And so while I do feel like on a day-to-day, those two like job descriptions are very different, I definitely feel that my experiences in one field have strengthened my prospects in the other. I definitely feel like through being a musician and a creative entrepreneur, it's taught me a lot about creative storytelling. And even as a musician, I feel like there's so much overlap with like even being an entrepreneur. You're kind of like the CEO of your own brand and your own product in that sense. And so I think a lot of the strategies that I have built in terms of like strategic thinking and even like giving presentations at work and getting stakeholder buy-in through communication and storytelling, all that has definitely helped me a lot in my corporate career. I remember I like talked deeply about my experiences as a musician when I was interviewing even for my current healthcare role. And I feel very grateful to work at an organization like CVS that really does encourage me to like be all parts of myself and recognizing that as an asset rather than something that makes me seem like confused about my career.
I love that. That makes so much sense to me that I've heard this over and over again in a lot of your answers, how much you value the power of communication through any medium, either through song or verbally, but also I've heard this as an undertone that storytelling is so important to you. Why is communication and storytelling so core to what your mission is?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always known that storytelling is something that draws me, but when we were prepping for this talk, it really made me think about why that is. And I think the way I can summarize it is I think storytelling is able to reach us as humans in a way that sometimes logic and data and numbers alone doesn't. As humans, we make decisions based on logic and fact, but we also act on our emotional reasoning and our intuition and our gut. And I think storytelling has that power to bring about shared understanding and really inspire us and move us to change. I think, for example, in healthcare, storytelling is really important. There could be a health policy that is widely supported by science, by research, by numbers. But if you can really explain how that policy can directly impact a patient's life or directly impact your neighbor or your loved one, I think that makes that policy so much more relevant to your target audience and can really be a powerful force for inspiring change. So, I think storytelling is it just gets at what it means to be human and is also this important bridge between information and human connection, can be a very powerful tool to inspire change and create action.
I love that. I love the fact that for you, it's all about storytelling and being able to tell a story in whatever medium, whatever vehicle that we're gifted to be able to do that, right? So I guess one of my core messages or one of my core question is, what is the core message in the story that you want to share today? What is the gift that you want to give to the audience, the pearl wisdom, if you have it, that you really want them to take away from the talk and your time with them today?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Also, just side note, this is really cool but nerve-wracking for me. I usually sing a lot, but I don't yap as much, I guess, about topics. So thank you just for this platform to not only perform, but share more about my personal story and experiences. I think my key take-home message for the audience is to live life by your own internal compass. And what I mean by that is I feel like we get a lot of advice from different directions, from the media, from our friends, families, mentors about how we should go about our career, how we should make personal decisions in our life. And sometimes that advice might even be contradictory. Some people will tell you to play your career safe. Some people will tell you to take risks in your career. Some people may tell you to specialize and really focus on one thing in your career. Some people will tell you that it's better to have a diverse range of skills and interests. So I think at the end of the day, it's really important to filter out the noise and ask yourself what makes the most sense to me. I know myself the best. And I think I've struggled a lot with this because I like to seek advice from people and mentors. But I think a lot of my career decisions might not make sense to a lot of people. Like, why are you pursuing two very different career paths? Like, you're muddling yourself. But I think for me, this journey makes sense. And there's direct implications of I don't think I would have chosen this particular path within healthcare if it wasn't for my experiences as a musician. And all of this like shapes me in a way that isn't maybe obvious to someone else. I think even creatively, I have such deep respect for creatives who pursue art full time. And I always wish that I had that gut and courage. And I think that is absolutely the right thing to do. But I think for me, I've had to be honest with myself that stability is a very like good value for me, and actually like having the stability of the 9 to 5 helps me to create in a more authentic and uninhibited way, knowing that this is something like outside of like I'm not depending on this for financial income. And that career choice might not make sense to other creatives that I've met, but it makes sense to me and vice versa. And so I think all of this to say is that I think you should live your life with your own curiosity and your own values. You know yourself best and pick the path that makes the most sense to you, even if it might not make sense for everyone else around you.
I think those are words to live by. Thank you for sharing those pearls of wisdom. Now, I believe our next step is what you love best, which is sharing your songs through a live audience performance. Are
Yeah,
you ready
thank
for
you so
that?
much. Yeah, I would love to sing for you all a little bit today.
Oh, I'm gonna mute the.
Yeah, thanks, Francine. It was so fun. Okay, thank you. Okay, cool. So this, oh, thank you. So I have a couple songs for y'all today that kind of relate to my talk and my journey. So now that you have all this context, but this first song is the song that really started it all for me in a lot of ways, personally and professionally. I'm going to be singing live the Mandarin cover of Yellow that I recorded for the film Crazy Rich Asians. This song has changed my life in so many ways, and I felt that I had to include this in my keynote speech today. 我想知道流星能飞多久，它的美丽是否值得去寻求？夜空的花散落在你身后，幸福了我很久。 值得去等候，你是我心狂奔，从黄昏到清晨，不能再承受。星月坠落在你手中。 与我乘黑夜的彩虹，蜕变成月光的金发，成月光的金发。知道流星能飞多久，它的美丽是否 Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the support. I have just felt the most gratitude to have been a part of this soundtrack. This next two that I'm going to sing are original songs of mine. This first one is called 19, and I think the next one is called Slash, and I think both of them are about the same emotional journey, but at different points. And so, as you can tell from my keynote speech, I'm someone who's very emotional about my career, and I think a lot about it and what that means to me in my life. And I wrote 19 about this. It's very angsty, but it's about this struggle to pick between chasing your passion and finding something that provides financial stability is asking a lot of questions like, do I have to choose one or the other? Can I have both? And so, yeah, I wrote this about, it's called 19 because 19 is when I recorded for the film Crazy Rich Asians. And I always kind of felt this pressure at the time to have to pick between pursuing music versus like pursuing something on a more stable path. I think this song is very specific to my experiences, but I think a lot of us have asked ourselves this like passion versus stability question in our careers at some point in our life. So hopefully this resonates with you and kind of brings you into my world as well. This is 19. I finally found that jacket. That denim Zara winter coat my aunt bought me years ago. I reached into the pockets and found a crumpled airplane ticket, 2020 Chicago. I used to fly so often. I got high off red-eye flights and singing to thousands. Now I work in an office. I rack my mind for reasons why I'm better off without it. I guess I'm fine. Life is nice. I'm lucky 'cause I actually really like my 9 to 5, but I can't lie. Deep inside, I'm missing the adrenaline and sleepless nights, and I get this vision that I'm 35, settled down in the suburbs with someone's wife. I have a picture perfect of middle class life, and I'm comfortably distracted most of the time. But then I'll see a picture from when I was 19 and get a little jealous of the girl I used to be. I was living in a world of endless possibility. I miss the heartbreak, the chaos, the free. Isn't this what I wanted? A sense of stability and change in my pocket. But now that I finally have it, I'm finding that the grass ain't as green as they promised. I guess I'm fine. Life is nice. I'm lucky 'cause I actually really like my 9 to 5, but I can't lie. Deep inside, I'm missing the adrenaline and sleepless nights, and I get this vision that I'm 35, settled down in the suburbs with someone's wife. I have a picture perfect of a middle class life, and I'm comfortably distracted most of the time. But then I'll see a picture from when I was 19 and get a little jealous of the girl I used to be. I was living in a world of endless possibility. I miss the heartbreak, the chaos, the free. I pray this curse won't last forever. I feel so somber in this comfort. I'll see a picture from when I was 19 and get a little jealous of the girl I used to be. I was living in a world of endless possibility. I miss the heartbreak, the chaos, the free. Hey, thank you. I don't sing that one live a ton, so thank you guys for being an exclusive audience. My last song for today really ties in with like my whole summary of what my talk is about, and it's called Slash. And Slash is kind of a reference to being a multi-hyphenate. So like if you've heard of like multi-hyphenate careers, and I wrote this about a year apart from 19. I think while 19 is this feeling like this struggle to choose a this or that, Slash is saying maybe there's a world where I can have both, and that one part of my identity doesn't diminish the other part of who I am as well. And so, yeah, this is a much more celebratory tone, but this is Slash. I hope you enjoy it. I caught myself overthinking when I was making my LinkedIn. Do I center on the health tech corporate and leave out the freelance musician? Cause is that a strength or a weakness? All these professional interests, would they see it as a neat uniqueness or question the lack of commitment? It keeps me up at night, but I'll take my own advice to chase the things that fill me up. So baby, so what? I'm just gonna take a big breath and be like, hey, I'm killing it with these flashes in my day. I'm still shimmering, skin off every shade. Killing it with these flashes in my day. I don't add up and maybe that's okay. I'm tired of making it make sense. I'll be proud of my contradictions. Cause do you notice how the ones who made it were once shamed for doing things different, but pushed past the self-doubt and skeptics? They found the power in hyphens. So I'll shine like custom cut diamonds. I'll find them all with my facets. I'm sick of simplifying. I think it's finally time to chase the things that fill me up. So baby, so what? I'm just gonna take a big breath and be like, hey, I'm killing it with these flashes in my day. I'm still shimmering, throwing off every shade. Killing it with these flashes in my day. I don't add up and maybe that's okay. Baby, I'm mixing matching, making a brand new magic, spelling it out with flashes. I'm facing the fears in my head, putting them in the past tense with flashes. I'm just gonna be like, hey, I'm killing it with these flashes in my day. I'm still shimmering, throwing off every shade. Killing it with these flashes in my day. I don't add up and maybe that's okay. Thank you so much for having me. Hope you have a great rest of your day.